G'day guys, hope you're all staying safe and doing well out there. Today I wanted to do a video on Marshall in a box pedals, which are probably the most common drive pedal you can get out there, probably next to the Tube Screamer type drive. So I wanted to talk about those today, and I wanted to talk about the problem I think there is with calling a pedal a Marshall in a box pedal. But first, I'm going to show you a bunch of pedals that are Marshall in a box style pedals, and then I'm going to tell you what I think the problem is with calling them Marshall in a box pedals. So let's jump to the first one. Let's start with my all-time favorite type of Marshall sound in the Ramble Effects Marvel Drive. Now this is a Plexi type drive pedal. So what that means is the drive sound is based on an old Marshall Plexi amp, which actually has a proper name, but we call it Plexi because of the plexiglass fronts that was on the amp. It's not a super high gain pedal, but it's also not a super low gain blues pedal. It's a really great rock and roll drive. The Ramble Effects Marvel Drive does it fantastic. It's been on this channel a few times, this pedal. So this is my favorite Marshall in a box style sound. So let's start there and hear it now. The other, probably most common type of Marshall in a box style pedal is the Marshall Blues Breaker style guitar drive pedal. Now the Marshall Blues Breaker was originally a pedal. I just did a video kind of giving a little bit of the history on it. So I'll show you a photo of what that original pedal looks like now. That in itself is a clone, sorry, not a clone, it is a pedal trying to replicate the sound of the original Marshall Blues Breaker amp, which you can see here. And the Marshall Blues Breaker amp is in turn a combo version of the Marshall Plexi amp we heard before in the Ramble Effects Marvel Drive pedals. So you've got the Marshall Plexi, which is the famous Marshall head from the 60s. Then you've got the Marshall Blues Breaker, which is the combo version of that. Then you've got the Marshall Blues Breaker pedal, which is kind of capturing that amp sound in a pedal. Then you've got a bunch of clones of that Marshall Blues Breaker pedal. The Marshall Blues Breaker sound, even though it's still a Plexi circuit for the most part, funnily enough, it is nowhere near as high gain usually. To demonstrate that, I've got a Snouse Black Box Overdrive 2. This is a really famous, really sought after drive pedal based around the Marshall Black Box. It might be the most famous out there, alongside the JHS Morning Glory, which I hear is really good as well. And you're going to hear how, even though they are both the Plexi pedal and the Blues Breaker pedal that we just tried and are about to try respectively, even though they're both kind of based on the same amp circuit in a roundabout way, they sound very different. You'll hear this black box sound really nice for a low gain bluesy crunch. It kind of adds just a little bit of grit to your amp. It's a really nice dynamic pedal. So you'll get to hear that difference now between our Plexi pedal we just heard and our Blues Breaker pedal that we're about to hear, even though, like I said, they're kind of based on the same amp. It's weird. Anyway, let's hear it. The NUX Morningstar is another Marshall Blues Breaker type drive. This sounds much more like the original pedal than the Snouse Black Box. I don't think the Snouse sounds bad. It's a really, really great drive pedal, but this sounds very similar to that original Marshall Blues Breaker pedal. I'm going to leave the shine feature on. That's how it kind of sounds like the original pedal, and you can hear that now. So let's talk about high gain Marshall in a box style pedals. They are often based on modded Plexi amps or the JCM 800 Marshall amplifier. This is a much more high gain, heavy rock, metal style of amp. So therefore the pedals are much more high gain. So the first one we're going to have a look at is the TC Electronic Dark Matter Distortion. You can find these everywhere and anywhere, new or used. They're really accessible. There's a bit of debate on what these are based on, but most people agree it's based on a hot-rodded Marshall Plexi. So there we go. That was famously done by Eddie Van Halen, who modded Marshall amps to get some more gain out of them and more volume. And we call that the brown sound, that Marshall brown sound, or that hot-rodded Marshall sound. So the Dark Matter Distortion sounds really cool. It's a really gnarly high gain distortion. So let's hear that. Okay, this is a confusing one, so bear with me as I explain it. This is a Donna Morpha distortion pedal. I'll show a picture of what they normally look like, because this one I repainted. So it is now the Venom distortion for me. But underneath, it looks like a Donna Morpha because it is a Donna Morpha distortion. That Donna Morpha pedal is a rebranded Mua solo pedal. There's a photo here. The Mua solo pedal is a clone, a direct clone of the Sir Riot pedal. So now we're on to the Sir Riot pedal, which is a high gain Marshall in a box type pedal, cloning the JCM 800 modded Plexi type thing. So this has a lot of gain on tap. It's great for those heavier rock sort of stuff if you want to do that. So this here is a repainted clone of a clone of a clone of a clone in a sense, but regardless, it's still a high gain Marshall in a box. The last one I wanted to have a look at is one of my favorite just pedals in general, but it's of course one of my favorite Marshall in a box pedals, and that is the Rothwell Audio Heartbreaker pedal. Now this, on their website, they say it's based on old 60s and 70s rocking amps that were used by many bands of the time. So no doubt it's a Marshall of some sort. This is great because it does the low gain blues breaker thing and the high gain, oh sorry, not high gain, but higher gain Marshall Plexi type thing really well, all in the same pedal with the low gain and high gain switch you can see there. It's a really great pedal. It's got a really nice mid-range. It's not really capturing a particular Marshall amp. It just sounds like a Marshall drive. If I could only have one drive pedal, it would probably If I could only have one drive pedal, it would probably be this or my exotic BB Plus, which I love a lot as well. So here is the problem with Marshall in a box pedals. We have gone from the Snouse Black Box, which is a Marshall in a box, to the Ramble Effects Marvel Drive, a Marshall in a box, even looks like one, to the Donna Morpha, which is a Marshall in a box, and then all our in-betweens. So what have we got? What's the deal here? I think it can be confusing for people to see on forums and online in places. It can be confusing for people to see this called a Marshall in a box when it sounds nothing like this Marshall in a box pedal. So you've got to break it into three categories. You've got your Blues Breaker Marshall in a box, you have your Plexi Marshall in a box, you have your JCM 800 Marshall in a box. Where it's confusing is the Blues Breaker is just the Plexi amp, but in a combo. So we've got the Plexi combo, which is the Blues Breaker, and the Plexi head, but these sound really different. Then we've got the JCM 800 / modded Plexi, which is again a Plexi amp. It's been modified, but it's still a Plexi amp. So all these pedals are based off the Plexi style amp at the end of the day. So you really need to figure out what sound you're going for and what type of Marshall in a box pedal you want. Do you want a low gain, bluesy, dynamic, light overdrive? Then look for a Blues Breaker pedal like this one. Do you want a bit more rock and roll? That can do blues as well. And you know, it can get a bit high gain, but it's never going to take you to metal territory. Then get a Plexi style pedal. Do you just want to go balls to the wall, heavy rock and metal? Then you're looking for the JCM 800 style pedal. They're all Marshall in a box clones, but they all sound really different. So how can we call them all Marshall in a box pedals? Especially when they all sound very different, but they're all based at the end of the day on the same amp. It's very confusing. So I think the Blues Breaker style pedal often gets called a Blues Breaker style pedal, which makes it easy. When we get into a Marshall in a box style pedal, we can go between a low to medium gain Plexi to a high gain Marshall sound to a really heavy metal Marshall sound. Sorry. So it's important to know what you're looking for when you see people on forums and stuff talking about a Marshall in a box pedal. Now, for the record, I think every option sounds fantastic. I love Blues Breaker style pedals. I really love this Plexi pedal in particular. It's a fantastic sounding drive pedal. And I love rocking on a high gain Marshall sound. Probably not as much as a Plexi or Blues Breaker, but it's all a lot of fun. It's just important that you know what you're looking for when you go to buy a drive pedal. At the end of the day, the best thing to do is just go to a guitar store, try a bunch out, and just walk home with whatever your favorite pedal was. That's all I can recommend you doing. Just trying a bunch and walking home with whichever one your favorite was, after paying for it, of course. That might be, you know, a low gain pedal, or it might be a super high gain Marshall pedal, or it could be something completely different. Just don't get confused out there when someone says Marshall in a box. It can mean a lot of different things and it might not be what you're looking for. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and I hope you enjoyed listening to these pedals. Please let me know which one your favorite was down in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next one.